It is 7 p.m. It's an honor and privilege to welcome you to the 106th annual meeting of Ursa Farmers Co-op. I'm your chairman for the evening, Eric Brady, and we should be on page 1 here, shouldn't we? Yep. All right. Fair warning, we will begin the evening with a moment of silence and then go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Our flag is here. Co-op flag is there. At this time, let's take recognition, a moment of silence for those who are no longer with us. At this time, if you would remove your hats and head cover and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would like to invite Mike Jansen to the podium. He is going to give our invocation.
Good evening. Before we turn our minds and hearts to the worship of the Lord, I would like to take a moment to thank Roger and the board, staff and administration for helping me. I happen to have the privilege of being on the Adams County Bicentennial Committee last year. And Don and I had Heritage Farms. Heritage Farms were farms that were in the same family for over 150 years. We had 85 families, and this summer at the fair we inducted 2 more families, so that's a total of 87. And if you look back the last 150 years, some of them weren't fun. With a depression, a lot of sickness, and these families made it through. Congratulations to those, and Roger and your employees who came and helped erect the pavilion at Ursa Farmers Co-op. We would love to say thank you very much, and we appreciate your support and what you've done for that has been wonderful. Now let us turn our minds and hearts to the worship of the Lord. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this beautiful weather you've given us this summer. It is so neat in the middle of August to see grass that's green and not brown and dying, crops that are green, pods that are full, ears that are full. Without you, none of this is possible. And for that, we say thank you. We also say thank you for this group that is gathered here. They feed the world. Without them, people in this world would be starving. So thank you for allowing us to feed your people. And we ask that you be with these people, keep them safe this harvest. It's going to be a long harvest, a lot of time spent. Please be with them, keep them safe. And this we ask in Jesus' name, amen.
At this time, I would like to call Drew Gassler to the podium. He will give the call of the meeting.
Call the meeting 2026 annual meeting. Stockholders of Ursa Farmers Cooperative Company. Notice is hereby given by order of the Board of Directors that the 106th annual meeting of the stockholders of Ursa Farmers Cooperative Company will be held on Tuesday, August 18, 2026. Beginning at 7 p.m. at the Ursa Administrative Office in Ursa, Illinois, for the following purpose: to receive and act upon the reports of the officers and directors from the preceding year, the election of directors to serve for a term of 1 or 2 years. Nominations include Jeff Moore, 2 years, Lance Arnold, 2 years, Brian Stevens, 1 year, David McCutcheon, 2 years, Richard Klusmeyer, 2 years. Any new business that may come before the board.
I'd like to invite Karen Voss to the podium for our tellers and quorum report.
Today, August 18th, 2026, the total votes from stock and equity equal 376,036 votes. We need 33% to meet a quorum. We have 344 votes registered this evening to vote. Therefore, we have a quorum.
Thank you for those numbers, Karen. If Drew Gasser would return to the podium, he's going to read the minutes from the previous annual meeting, August 19th, 2025.
And the 105th annual meeting of First Farmers Cooperative Board was called to order. Eric Gravy opened the meeting and led the Pledge of Allegiance. Mike Jansen was called to the podium for the invocation. Brock Eustace read the call of the meeting, followed by Karen Voss presenting the teller's quorum report. There were 233,862 votes registered from stock and equity. 33.33% is needed for a quorum, or 77,876 votes. We had 87,289 votes registered in person or by proxy. A quorum is present. Brock Eustace presents the Secretary's report with reading the minutes from the 104th annual meeting, followed by Jason Plunkett's audit and treasurer's report. Roger Hugenberg gave the general manager's report. Roger discussed governance of the co-op, record earnings, and stock allocation. He discussed the differences between co-op stock, preferred stock versus regular stock, being qualified versus non-qualified. Roger thanked all the members of the co-op for all they do. Ken Booker gave the operations manager's report. Ken discussed another trip around the sun. He discussed daily logistics and operations of the UFC. Ken thanked all patrons, employees, and suppliers of the UFC. Ken also discussed the progress of the new grain bin at the Whalen location. Scott Meyer recognized special guests that were in attendance, followed by Eric Gravy leading the election of directors. Eric Gravy called Andrew Campbell to the podium for the election of officers. Andrew Campbell, chairman of the nominating committee, called on Terry Schlippen to be temporary secretary, called on Susie Ray to give the secretary's report for the nominating committee meeting. Parker Hare, secretary of the nominating committee, was unable to attend. Andrew called on Karen Voss to present the election results. Jason Plunkett and Drew Gasser were elected to a term of 2 years on the UFC board of directors, and Craig Suter for a term of 1 year. Scott Ray motioned to accept the election results, and Joe Schroeder seconded the motion. Terry Schlippen cast an unanimous vote. Motion carried. Eric Gravy in the resolutions of the board of directors of First Farmers Cooperative Company's letter that was sent out to the members regarding shareholder equity. That paragraph 3 of section 4 of the UFC amended and restated articles of incorporation shall be amended to state each share of common stock or preferred stock issued has 1 vote. In addition, the patron receives 1 vote for every $25 of qualified and or non-qualified equity allocated to patron. Section 4 of Article 4 of the UFC bylaws of First Farmers Cooperative Company shall be amended to state voting rights, shareholders shall be entitled to cast 1 vote for each outstanding share of stock, regardless of class held by them. A patron who receives qualified or non-qualified equity shall receive 1 vote for every $25 of qualified or non-qualified allocated equity allocated to the patron. In all elections for directors, shareholders may accumulate such votes as provided by the Business Corporation Act. That the historic voting rights of patrons described herein are ratified retroactively and approved prospectively. That the amendment of the articles shall be presented to the members of UFC at the 2025 annual meeting for approval. Take your motion to accept the amendment to the UFC bylaws. David Peterman seconded the motion. Motion carried. Craig Suter and Jason Plunkett passed out door prizes. Eric Gravy and Gary Ken House motion to adjourn the meeting. Elizabeth Likes seconded the motion. meeting adjourned. Respectfully submitted that Drew Gassler, Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Rassler. I've not heard my name mentioned that many times since I was in the principal's office in high school. I'm going to ask our treasurer, board treasurer, Mr. Jeff Moore, to come forward and go through the financials. If you'd like to follow along, they're in your booklet.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, if you want to follow along, the detail, what I'm going to cover is on page 6 and 7 of your annual report. So first off, our balance sheet for Ursa Farmers, I'm going to go over this at the high level. I'm not going to read through every line item. So our total current assets are $91,268,895. Our total property and equipment equates to $56,286,921. Our total other assets are $9,549,332. Total assets in all, $157,105,148. And then on page, got the other half of this to do, sorry. Our liabilities on the balance sheet, current total liabilities are $69,332,629. Our total long-term liabilities are $28,504,517. And total patrons equity is $59,278,002. And total liabilities and patron equity equates to $157,105,148. Now for the consolidated statement of operations, or otherwise I call the P&L statement. Grain margin, and then on your book you've got 26 versus 25. I'm just reading the 26 fiscal year. So grain margin for the fiscal year 26 was $17,793,084. Merchandise margin was $204,362. Gross trading margin, those two together, $17,997,446. Service income was $6,037,766. Total operating expenses, $17,885,484. Income from operations, $6,149,728. Then other income, we had other income, a negative $861,685 for a savings, and then a provision for income taxes, $49,553. And so our net earnings for fiscal year 2026 was $5,337,596.
Thank you for the report, Mr. Moore. Are there any questions on the financials? If there is any questions, please ask me afterwards, and we'll do our best to explain anything you have to ask. All right, it is time for me to invite the General Manager of Ursa Farmers Co-op to the podium. Welcome, Roger Huber.
We're kind of zipping through this pretty fast, aren't we?
Yep.
So I hope I don't make Ken Doosterhouse mad if I'm brief in my remarks tonight. So, first and foremost, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 106th annual meeting. It's a privilege to stand before you tonight on behalf of our cooperative, our employees, our board of directors, and the members who have built and sustained this organization for more than a century. For 106 years, this cooperative has existed for one reason: to serve our member owners. Generations of producers have trusted this organization through good years and difficult ones, through changing markets, evolving technology, expanding operations, and the daily challenges that come with agriculture. That trust is never taken for granted. It is something we work to earn from you every day. This past year was one for the record books. We handled record grain volume across our system. And that achievement reflects the hard work and commitment of a great many people. It reflects the productivity and confidence of our members, the dedication of our employees, the guidance of our board, and the continued investment this cooperative has made in facilities, service, and reliability. Tonight, I want to especially thank our 66 full-time employees. A record-volume year does not happen by accident. It takes long hours, safe decisions, teamwork, problem solving, and pride in doing the job right. Whether serving the customers at the counter, maintaining equipment, running scales, moving grain, managing logistics, supporting accounting and administration, or keeping our facilities operating during the busiest days of the year, our employees delivered. Their efforts are a major reason this cooperative continues to earn the confidence of you, our members. We also recognize the importance of continued investment. Over the past decade, this cooperative supported and completed the construction of 2 new grain receiving facilities. Those projects were not just construction projects. They were investments in speed, capacity, efficiency, and long-term service to our members. Along with those major projects, we have continued to invest in maintenance, facility improvements, and locational updates across our 7 locations and administrative office. Each of those investments matters because every location plays a role in serving members safely, efficiently, and reliably. They were built and maintained with the future in mind, and this year's record volume demonstrates how important that vision has been. This evening, we also take time to honor 2 board members who will be turning out after 10 years of service. Eric Raby and Craig Suter, serving on a cooperative board requires time, judgment, patience, and a deep commitment to the membership. Eric completes his term as chairman, providing steady leadership and direction during an important period in our cooperative's history. Craig served first as secretary and then as vice president, giving generously of his time and experience as a cooperative moved through major decisions, including the support and oversight needed to move forward with 2 new grain receiving facilities. Their leadership has helped position us for a record year we just experienced and for the opportunities ahead. On behalf of our management team, our employees, our fellow board members, and our member owners, thank you for your decade of service. Thank you for your willingness to study the issues, ask the difficult questions, support responsible growth, and keep the best interests of the cooperative at the center of every decision. We also thank your families because service of this kind often requires time away from home, farm, and family responsibilities. We also recognize 2 managers this evening whose careers represent extraordinary dedication to this cooperative. Terry Slipman, who retired in August of 2025 after 47 years of service, and Truman Phillips, who retired in July of this year after 41 years of service. Their long careers reflect a level of commitment, knowledge, and service that helped shape the cooperative we know today. We are grateful for the example they set and for the lasting impact they have had on our employees, our members, and our organization. As we look ahead, we know agriculture will continue to change. Markets will move, technology will advance, weather will test us, and our members' needs will continue to evolve. But the foundation of this cooperative remains strong. We have a committed membership, capable employees, experienced leadership, and a clear purpose. Our job is to keep improving, keep investing wisely, and keep serving members in a way that honors the trust you placed in us. Thank you to our members for your business and your loyalty. Thank you to our employees for your dedication. Thank you to our board for your leadership. And thank you to Eric Raby, Craig Suter for 10 years of board service, Terry Slipman for 47 years of service, and Truman Phillips for 41 years of service. 106 years in business is a remarkable milestone. A record volume year is a remarkable achievement. Together, they remind us that this cooperative strength comes from people, members, employees, directors, and families, all working together with a shared belief in the future of agriculture. Thank you, and enjoy the evening.
Thank you for those kind words, Roger. I'd like to invite Operations Manager Kent Bucker to the microphone.
Good evening. I want to take a few minutes to review what's happened in the last 10 years while Eric and Craig was on the board. So we started in 2016. Scott Ray was president, Ted Knorr was vice president, Scott Rutledge was secretary, Kevin Roskamp was treasurer, and Roger Studer and Charles Kruger, and Eric Cassis was on the board. So Scott Ray and Roger Studer came off the board, and Eric and Craig came on. At that time, the board meetings was held at URSA in the basement of the office in URSA, along with the other UFC locations. That fiscal year, we handled 41 million bushels of grain, and we had 16.1 million bushels of space. Patron's equity was $21,231,000. We purchased this building in that fiscal year. We put up the 132-foot bin at Canton, the first one. And we added an outbound scale and reader at Meyer in that fall. We had 90 employees. Dave Neal, Michael Kirchner, and Dan Wellman retired that year. So the safety committee was started. Derek Green was hired to work at the Camp Point elevator. We had locations in Ursa, Meyer, Warsaw, Bowen, Lorain, Camp Point, Canton, Gregory, Wayland. And we had grain, feed, seed, and trucking and crop insurance. 2017, Ted Knorr was the president, Scott Rutledge was vice president, Charles Kruger was secretary, and Kevin Roskamp treasurer. We handled 65.8 million bushels. We moved into the administrative office here in November of 2017. Brenda Corrigan, Ray Kinnear, Jerry Geisler retired. We put up 2 more additional 132-foot bins at Canton and a 30,000 bushel an hour leg at Canton. We worked on the dust collection at Warsaw and Gregory. Ray Kinnear retired, and Don Savage started working at Bowen. Justin Hoffman came to work as a manager at the Gregory location. In 2018, we purchased property south of Wayland, and we started the construction of our new elevator, including a pile at Wayland, which added 2.7 million bushels of space. We had the first safety fair for the employees in July of 2018. Bill Hilgebrink was hired as the trucking department manager that fiscal year. Paul Alexander retired. 2018-19, we had the flood of 2019. The Gregory elevator got flooded, and that elevator did not reopen. That fiscal year, also UFC was hacked, or somebody kicked in the door of our computer system, and we can thank the world for passwords and two-factor authentication and all kinds of nice things. Scott Robson was hired at Camp Point. Craig Harness was hired at Wayland. Derek Swanson was hired as the IT administrator. Virgil Klauser retired. We also celebrated with a flood party after the flood of 2019 here at this office. Also at the annual meeting that year, we showed off a 100th anniversary Rexar that we had at the annual meeting. We sold tickets through the FFA chapters and was won by Tammy Pearl in December of that year. 2020, 100 years, also happened to be a year of COVID. During that year, we replaced and raised the barge belt at Warsaw. We made levee improvements at Meyer. We started a new elevator at Camp Point in February. We broke ground, and it was open for harvest for that fall. We added legs, dryer, 132-foot bins, and loadout bins at Wayland. We put up a 156-foot bin at camp. Total storage was now at 20 million. We also started to fill ground pile at Lorraine. Warsaw, we added scale automation and remote printers. The Lorraine office moved to the old lumberyard. Justin Hickman was hired as the feed department manager, and Debbie Camphouse retired. 2021, Charles Kruger was the president, Kevin Rosskamp was vice president, Craig Suter secretary, and Eric Cassens was treasurer. Eric Plunkett was elected, and Scott Rutledge moved on. Again, we celebrated 100 years. We started improvements at Meyer to raise the legs out of the concrete house. We removed the damaged 72-foot bin at Meyer. Lindsay Slaughterback started at Camp Point. Curtis White and Kim Lambert retired. Lorraine Scale and Probe was moved and added, and then changed the traffic flow at Lorraine. 2022, after that annual meeting, Kevin Rosskamp went off, Brock Yuskis was elected, Melvin Lindner was hired at Meyer, Jim Potts, Don Savage, Daryl McCartney retired. We sold the old Camp Point elevator. Annual meeting in 2023, Ted Knorr went off the board and Drew Gassler was elected. We added solar panels at Ursa, Lorraine, Bowen, Camp Point, and the admin office. Tim Nelson was hired at Bowen. Judy Ludwig and Curtis Johnson retired. We did seat improvements at Wayland, and we continue to work at Meyer on improving the reclaim system. In 2024, Eric Raby was the president, Craig Suter was the vice president, Brock Yuskis was the secretary, Eric Cassens treasurer, and Charles Kruger, Jason Plunkett, and Drew Gassler was on the board. After that meeting, Charles Kruger and Eric Cassens went off, Lance Arnold and Jeff Moore were elected. We closed the feed department. Ken Gray, Brenda Wright, Tom Bardoff, Monty Rowland, Mike Jameson retired, and we sold the old Wayland property. Annual meeting 2025, Brian Stevens was appointed, after the meeting, was appointed to take Brock Yuskis' place. Larry Spurgeon and Terry Slipman retired. We updated the sweeps at Meyer and Canton. We added an overhead bin at Lorraine, and we added a 132-foot bin that Roger talked about. So this year, 106 years, presently our equity, in the book that Jeff went through, our equity now is $59,278. And we've made $59.5 million in capital expenditures while these guys was on the board since 2016. Obviously Truman Phillips retired. We received 76 million bushels this year. We have 23 million bushels of storage. We got one flat that holds 1.5 million bushels at Wayland. We got two ground piles, one at Lorraine that holds 150,000 bushels, and one at Wayland that holds 2 million. We get 81 concrete silos that hold 22 million bushels at Meyer and Warsaw. We got 51 steel tanks that hold 19,819,825,000 bushels at the 7 locations. One 156 million bushel bin that holds 2 million. We got 7 132-foot bins that holds 1.4 million, 4 bins that are 105-foot diameter that hold like 750, 4 90-footers, 172, and 3 60-foot bins. We got 3 river belts that can load 7 to 8 barges in a normal day. And this past year, we added some scales underneath the overhead bins at Wayland that can weigh the weight of the going on the trucks, and we send those trucks out with legal loads on them, and we don't have to reload or unload them. We're working at Meyer on completing the electrical control system and improving their reclaim system. And we added a BFD on the drive of the Canton barge belt to help speed up barge loading. In progress, to finish up here this year, at Warsaw we're going to add a scale that is coming off the west dump so that you can dump your grain, you can get weighed, and you can leave and you don't have to circle the elevator for a second time. After harvest, we're going to add a leg at Warsaw there on the west side. It will speed up the dumping there at the west dump, and it'll enable us to load barges faster, load more of them in a week. And then we are also at Canton adding 2 outbound scales to help to improve the traffic flow. And then Canton's going to update their control system that runs their whole elevator. So thank you. So a lot of stuff that happened in the last 10 years. Thank you to the board directors. Thank you to the employees and the customers for making it happen.
The farmer in me, if I'd have known what it was all going to total up would cost, I'd have said no. All right. It's time to talk about the riverboats, riverbanks to riverboats. And instead of me trying to describe it to you, I'm going to have somebody that got to experience it with these fine students. I'd like to welcome Susie Ray to the podium.
Thank you, Eric. Good evening. My name is Susie Ray, and my husband, Scott, and I had the privilege of serving as chaperones on the Riverbanks to Riverboats trip. And what an experience it was. Riverbanks to Riverboats was created for local high school students who have an interest in agriculture. And over the course of 4 days, these students were able to see agriculture from an entirely new perspective. As we all know, agriculture is about so much more than what happens in the field. This program gave students a first-hand look at the many careers that help move our products from the farm to customers around the world. They were introduced to so many opportunities and careers they may not have realized were even available within agriculture. Our group traveled to New Orleans, where the students toured the CHS and Zeno grain terminals. They were able to stand along the Mississippi River and see firsthand how grain from communities like ours moves through the export system and ultimately reaches the global market. One of the most valuable parts of the trip was the opportunity for students to interact directly with industry professionals. These professionals shared their experiences, answered questions, and gave the students a glimpse into the many different paths an ag career can take. The UFC Foundation was especially proud to sponsor 8 outstanding students. Please hold your applause until the end. Kaya Figge, Warsaw High School. Brinley Hackamak, Liberty High School. Edward Halse, Monroe City High School. Selby Halse, Monroe City High School. Reed Lender, Minden High School. Adelaide McMillan, Warsaw High School. Parker Schaffnet, Minden High School, and Emily Ray, Minden High School. If you are a parent, a grandparent, a relative, a friend, a neighbor, or have any affiliation with these 8 young individuals, please stand up. Take a look around. You should take great pride to have played a part, big or small, in the lives of these outstanding young people. If you are sitting and you do not know these future entrepreneurs, you should. This is our future, and these rock stars are going to go far in life. Congratulations. The Riverbanks experience was made possible through grant funding and the support of valued partners who believed in the importance of creating opportunities like this for our local students. At Ursa Farmers, we understand that the future of agriculture depends on the next generation. When we give young people opportunities to experience agriculture beyond the farm, meet industry professionals, and discover careers they may have never even considered, we are doing more than providing a trip. We are opening doors. Programs like the Riverbanks to Riverboats allows us to invest in the future of our communities, strengthen the future of our industry, and help cultivate the next generation of our agriculture leaders. You should all be incredibly proud of these students and your local cooperative. I was grateful for the enthusiasm, the curiosity, and the excitement that they brought to the experience. The best way to show just how memorable this experience was is to let you see it for yourselves. So we'd like to take you along our journey with a short video highlighting some of the unforgettable moments, the great memories, and of course, one of the most important parts to any trip, our favorite food. So kick back and enjoy as we spotlight the Riverbanks to Riverboats experience. Thank you.
My favorite place we went to on the trip was Zeno, because they can unload 2 barges a day at all times. That is also where I learned the life lesson of always being prepared, because they have a spare part for everything they would need, so they can fix it themselves.
My favorite part of the trip was touring the grain facilities to get a better perspective on agriculture and being able to see how the grain is transported down the river. And I also really liked the alligator swamp boat tour, that was pretty fun.
So the biggest lesson I learned from the trip was I really enjoyed seeing all the logistics and legwork that goes into making a big grain terminal such as Center Grain or CHS operate on a day-to-day basis. The number of people that it takes to do all the maintenance and get all the work done is simply impressive, and it's impressive that they do it so well, as there are so many moving parts to a business like that. My favorite place that we visited was Zeno Grain. I really enjoyed visiting there because it was crazy for me coming from small town northeast Missouri to see the size and scale of a terminal such as Zeno Grain. At Zeno, they move over 2.3 million bushels on average every single day. They move 2.3 million in and 2.3 million out, which is simply wild.
Hi everyone, my name is Brinley Hackman, and I was honored to be a participant on the Riverbanks to Riverboats trip. During my time in New Orleans, I enjoyed the Zeno and CHS grain transportation facility tours, where I learned about commodity trading on a national and global scale. One valuable lesson I learned was to never trust alligators when there's marshmallows around. But on a more serious note, I learned how one aspect of agriculture affects all the others.
The favorite place we had a tour was probably Zeno. Zeno was probably on 200 acres of land, and then comparing that to the facilities we have here locally, it kind of just blew them out of the water. And then one thing I learned on this trip was to come out of your own comfort zone. You're meeting new people, new cultures on this trip, and you can't just stay in your own bubble. You have to come out and talk to multiple different people.
The best lesson that I learned was how many different opportunities there are in business and stuff, and at the grain facilities, there's more than just being in technology and other stuff. It was really cool when we got to see that like there's someone that like just like runs a skid steer from like inside an electronic place. Like I thought that was super cool. The best place that we visited, I guess it really wasn't like a place, but like it was really fun when we went out on the swamp boat tour and we got to see like the gators and everything, and like we even got to feed them, so that was super cool.
I would say the biggest takeaway and lesson that I learned from this trip was never take for granted the grain that you have in front of you, such as your bread and other grain products that you may just have always had access to. But after going on these in-depth grain tours and getting to see all the behind-the-scenes work put into transporting this grain and getting this grain from place to place, getting it to our local areas, it just puts a completely different perspective on how fortunate we are to have people that work these jobs and get us our grain for all our favorite breads and other grain products. I would say that my favorite experience from the trip was either the Airboat Swamp Tour or the CHS Facility Tour. The Airboat Swamp Tour has been one of my bucket list items for as long as I can remember, seeing all the gators. The group got along super well, so we all had a really good time hanging out on that and having this new experience seeing gators. And then the CHS Facility Tour, just seeing the wide-scale production of how much is going on there. But then also not only seeing the outside jobs of all the barge loading and stuff like that, but seeing the inside jobs of people who sit at screens and have to take all this inventory and make sure the barges are getting out. There are so many in-depth pieces that I had never even thought about, and it was just really cool to get to see all the process of that. And they're transporting it on our local Mississippi River, so all commodities that are shipped right down the river with us.
One of the things that I learned on this trip was that ag has many different areas for one to explore beyond just the farm. My favorite tour on this trip was the Zeno Grain Facility, which was very cool because of the amount of grain they moved and how they moved it and the process involved that were involved there, which was unloading it from the barges and rails, storing it for very little time, and moving it onto a large ship that couldn't cross the sea.
My favorite place we ate at was the Blue Bayou, where they had blackened oysters, and those were very delicious.
And my favorite food that I tried was beignets.
Probably my favorite food overall that I tried was the bread pudding. We tried this at a plantation house museum type of a diner, which we went to after going to Zeno Grain, and they had all kinds of different foods from the plantation house time period, but the bread pudding was awfully good, and that was something I had never tried prior to the trip.
Let me tell you, it was really great. I could probably eat seafood gumbo every day if I could.
One of my favorite things we got to try was probably the spicy oysters. They had a really good flavor to them. They didn't have an overwhelming, like, fishy taste to it.
But it would definitely have to be the seafood boil that I got, because it was super good. It had like crab, shrimp, and like a bunch of other things, and then it was like a Cajun seasoning that we put on it, and it was like super good. And then I did try oysters for the first time, and those were also pretty good. They were, some of them I liked, and then some of them were bad.
My favorite food that I tried was, we got different oysters every night. There were like special oysters at every restaurant we went to, and I love oysters, so I love getting to try all the different varieties of them.
My favorite food on this trip was probably a shrimp pasta, but overall the food was very, very good.
First of all, thank you for this experience and allowing me to go with such a great group of kids. To see this whole network and the way the infrastructure of the grain moves throughout the country was just fascinating to all of us. It was also very interesting to hear both of the managers of both Zeno and CHS to say neither one of them really started in the agricultural grain business, but ended up starting out kind of on the floor level, working their way up to the top to show that anything is able to be accomplished if you put your mind to it. It was a great experience. The kids were wonderful, and we had some phenomenal food that I think everybody enjoyed. The oysters by far were the best. All you parents should be very proud of your kids and the questions they asked, and they were very in tune with the whole whole trip, and it made it very enjoyable for all of us.
My favorite memory of the Riverbanks trip was seeing the excitement on the kids' faces as they got the opportunity to learn how the grain was transported down the Mississippi River and really seeing the process from start to finish. My favorite food was the beignets. The charbroiled oysters were also a top favorite. And overall, the trip was a very great experience. And these kids, these students, they're going to go far in life. It gives me really great hope in the agriculture community as well as the youth in our communities because these students were stellar.
A huge thank you to the students representing Ursa Farmers Co-op and our sponsors, Scott and Susie. Thank you again. We really appreciate you representing us. I'd like to call to the podium Scott Meyer, who is going to introduce some guests.
Every year they have a convention down there in New Orleans for people that ship barges and stuff. And I haven't gone for a few years, but after watching that video and hearing about all the food, I gotta get down there again. So Scott Meyer, the grain merchandiser for Ursa Farmers Co-op. I'm the one that is responsible for selling barges down to New Orleans, and I work with the traders at both of those facilities, CHS and Zeno. And I was able to talk with both facilities, people that I trained with afterwards. The person that gave the tour of Zeno is the manager of that facility, and he doesn't typically give tours anymore. He's usually got other things that are going on, but he's giving a lot of tours. He's given a lot of tours in his day when he was in the lower management position, and he said that that was by far the best tour that he's ever given. It was because of the kids, their enthusiasm, and their great questions. So they're representing Ursa Farmers Co-op here, and they're also representing the area and their families down there as well. So kudos to them. I've been at those facilities touring them. They've got a big board that will show like all the barges that they have to unload that day. And I saw some barges that were labeled Ursa. So for all the farmers, they do keep track of every barge and whose barge it is when it gets down to the Gulf as well for quality purposes, etc. So, you know, we've had lots of 1 million bushel inbound days at our co-op, but to hear them talk about almost 4.6 million bushels that those facilities do total in a day in one facility is quite a feat. So, tonight I would like to recognize some of our guests. The first 3 guests I'd like to recognize are all spouses of board members up here or the management. Craig Suter's wife, Angela, is here tonight and her family. Eric Raby's wife, Danette, is here tonight. And Kent Booker's wife, Kay, is also in attendance tonight. So thank you to all those 3 women. I see numerous past employees, which is also a testament to the Ursa Farmers Co-op family and community. We've also got numerous past board members as well scattered throughout the room. We'd like to thank them all for coming. We've got a lot of business partners that make moving all these bushels possible. Roger talked about the record volume. We've got 3 of those business partners in attendance that I know of or see tonight. We've got Schaefer Enterprises with Dwayne and Pam Schaefer. I think Kent Booker went through all the bins that he's built here in the last 10 years. So. We've got C&W Farms Trucking. We've also got Gassler Farms Trucking that does a lot of trucking for us. So the last person that I see in attendance is Cole Ray, who is a scholarship winner this year for us. So I'd like to thank all of them. I'd like to thank all of you, the patrons, for all of your business this past year. Thank you so much.
Move into the election of directors portion of our annual meeting. At this time, I'd like to call Joe Zumel to the microphone to assume the podium.
Good evening, everybody. It's been about 14 years ago that I was up here for a little while. Anyway, I served 10 years on the board, but I just want to say congratulations to the current board and to the current everybody involved, employees, the patrons, everybody on a highly successful year and a safe year. And I just want to say thank you and congratulations to everybody, both on the board and the patrons of Ursa Farmers, because we really are something special. And when you think you handle 77 million bushel of grain, and we're all farmer-owned here in a small part of Missouri and Illinois, part of Iowa, that's a pretty special thing. So with that, again, I'm Joe Zumwalt. I served as the nominating committee chairman. And first thing I'd like to do is to ask Tanner Van Tress to be a temporary secretary, if he's all right with that. So we'll have him back there. Next, I would like to ask for a report from the nominating committee by asking Adam Jones to come forward and give the nominating committee report.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. As he mentioned, my name's Adam Jones, and again, I'll echo what he said on behalf of the nominating committee. Thank you for the time away from family that our board members take, and also congrats to those coming onto the board this year. So a nominating committee meeting was held on Monday, June 22nd, 2026 in Ursa, Illinois at the Ursa Farmers Cooperative Administration Office. The purpose of this meeting was to select a list of candidates for election to the board of directors of the Ursa Farmers Cooperative to be placed on the ballot. The committee consisted of the following: Craig Schaefer, Joel Swisher, Aaron Stevens, Ted Knorr, Adam Jones, Boone Winkleman, and Joe Zumwalt. Joe Zumwalt was chosen to be chairperson, and Adam Jones was chosen as secretary. There are 5 positions up for election this year, with 5 candidates vying for the board position. We received 5 nominations that were submitted to the Ursa Administrative Office by Monday, June 22nd, 2026. The committee contacted these that expressed interest by the deadline, and each asked to have their name placed on the ballot. The committee recommends that the membership place the following candidates on the ballot for purposes of election for a term as follows: Jeff Moore, 2 years; Lance Arnold, 2 years; Brian Stevens, 1 year; David McCutcheon, 2 years; Richard Klusmeyer, 2 years. I would like to thank the members of the nominating committee for their due diligence in this process. And I'll turn it back over to Joe.
All right, as reported by the nominating committee, the list of nominees up for election to serve a term of 1 or 2 years for the board of directors of the Ursa Farmers Cooperative are as follows: Jeff Moore, 2 years; Lance Arnold, 2 years; Brian Stevens, 1 year; David McCutcheon, 2 years; and Richard Klusmeyer, 2 years. This year we had 5 candidates vying for 5 seats. Ballots were mailed out with proxies with a deadline of Thursday, August 13th. And at this time, I would ask Karen Voss to come forward to give the election result.
The following candidates received the most votes: Jeff Moore, Lance Arnold, Brian Stevens, David McCutcheon, and Richard Klusmeyer. Congratulations to all of you.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to request a motion from the floor to elect the following: Jeff Moore for 2 years, Lance Arnold for 2 years, Brian Stevens for 1 year, David McCutcheon for 2 years, and Richard Klusmeyer for 2 years. I would request a motion from the floor, and state your name for our recorder here. Also need a second.
Ben Hugenberg, second.
Ben Hugenberg. Okay, at this time, I believe we need all in favor to say yay. Yay. Opposed, same sign. Then I will ask our temporary secretary, Tanner, to cast the unanimous vote, I believe. Okay. Tonight we have re-elected Jeff Moore, Lance Arnold, Brian Stevens, and have elected David McCutcheon and Richard Kluschmeyer to the Board of Directors of the Ursa Farmers Co-op. So congratulations to you all, and good luck in the upcoming term.
Thank you, Mr. Zumwalt. At this time, I'm to ask, is there any unfinished business from a year ago? Is there any unfinished business from a year ago? Final call. Any unfinished business from 2025? How about new business or something that should be brought to the floor? Seeing none, I'm supposed to give you closing comments. Thanks to Kent's trip down memory lane, I've got 2 pages of my speech. Actually, I would just like to say thank you to Craig Suter and his family. It's been amazing to watch Craig and his family grow over this last 10 years, so thank you for that. He has done whatever the board has asked him. He was our first secretary, and he plunged right through that, recording our minutes, and was our vice chair, and has led with a strong ethic, and you should thank him for that person. I'd like to tell you that, man, I got to walk through a brand new bin at Wayland, and I got to see a gator sweep in a brand new bin at Camp Point. I got to walk in this great big flat circle of lime at Lorraine and at Wayland. And you may not know this, but I'm the only board member that got to help Dwayne Schaefer tell concrete forms off of the inside of the mechanical room at camp. It was only 105 and we were swept through, but it was a Saturday morning while it was cool. And that schedule was getting tight, so Dwayne was looking for some people to help speed things along. So I got to see camp when they dropped it in the rectangle and then had to shift it to the corners because the people upstream wanted us a little further away from them. So I also got to walk across the top of Grain at Gregory. That was a month after I got to ride a boat up to it and stand on the levee listening to the bolts break, sounding like rifle shots as the bins collapsed into the floodwater. Went back after they backed the good grain off the top of the big bin, cut a hole in it, and they're in there with a skid steer, stooped and packed and loaded the grain out. We had a meeting right down in the boardroom in 2019, prevent plant. Nobody was going to plant. It was wet. There was no way we were going to plant. We went down, we fought a river with boards, 2x12s and sandbags, and we finally won one. We kept one in. It was amazing. Nobody's going to plant. 4 days later, tired, sitting in a tractor, we're planting. The creator stopped the rain, dried things up, and we started planting. What could have took out a co-op like ours with 100 years experience? Not raising a crop, I'd sure do it. On your behalf, I got to do a lot of really neat things and meet a lot of really cool people. Kent took care of all that for me. So I got to help watch and see a record truck take a cable and pull through columns of beans that had wedged together and stuck at Wayland so we could get them back out of the bin. That's not something a normal elevator does, but that was a problem for everybody storing beans in here. They just compressed so tight that you couldn't chisel them apart. They had several people go in and look at it and said, yeah, you guys got a problem, we're going home. So, with all the events I just mentioned, we're still here. Your co-op is strong, and your co-op is growing. Thank you for allowing me to serve you. Not the most important part. Probably after we adjourn. You guys ready to adjourn? Is there a motion to adjourn?
No, we can do it.
That's the first time I've heard that.
I can't fire you.
All right, we do have some other things, yes. All right, so let me back up here and get our thoughts together.
Before we adjourned, we had a moment of silence. We all miss Booty Campbell so much. I could feel Booty there by me saying, the only time any of us seen Booty Campbell in a suit, coat, and tie was at the annual meeting. And I could just see Booty taking me aside, Dan, things are getting kind of mediocre around here. Look at all the neckties. Our culture is changing, but Booty, he's tapped on the shoulder and called attention to that. So anyway, you'll know, Booty was always using the word mediocre. So anyway, he was using on you guys to laugh a little bit, but you can't have a moment of silence about Booty. It's got to be something like that. But he did show me that, remind me that. Thank you.
I will honor those comments with this little story. You always follow the Powerball, right? Everybody's wanting to know where all the money went, who the winner was. You was all watching the Herald Wake to find out who won the Powerball. You probably didn't see the 2-page article about the gentleman that escaped from a lockup facility to the east here in Mount Sterling. And it kind of goes like this. From what I read, he was the size of a Kentucky Derby jockey. He wasn't a very big fellow. And by gosh, he didn't do anything really, really naughty, but he may have misrepresented a real estate transaction. And he was in the facility, and lo and behold, he was pretty crafty. He somehow got up high into the guard tower and hand over hand or zip line out to the solar panels on the cables there for internet and so forth and so on. So he got to the solar panels and shimmied down the conduit and got to the outside wall, and down the wall he went because he had superhuman strength in his fingers to go down and mortise the bricks. And well, like I say, you guys didn't see it, but everybody that wrote the article, this thing was like 2.5 pages, but I'll sum it all up for you. The story was about an ordinary man that was a little condescending.
We would be remiss tonight if we weren't blessed with some wisdom from Eric Grady. That will be one thing that we miss. And Eric, you've got, I hope, you come back to every annual meeting and bless us as such. So before we go through the adjournment tonight, we would like to have Eric Grady and Greg Studer come up, Karen Scott, Karen's we've got some mementos on behalf of their 10 years of service. So we'd like to present that, we'd like to get a few photos, and when we're done, I'd like everybody to give a round of applause, and then when you see Eric here after the meeting, just, if you would, please thank him. Again, as I put in my speech on there, there's a tremendous amount of time and energy. Brian Stevens would be up here tonight. He had a family event. I probably should have shared that earlier, but he would have been up here tonight. Brian echoed that, there's a lot of things going on with URSA as being new to the board. There's just a lot of things going on with URSA. And I think that's a testament to the actions, the activities, the people, the patrons, and all the things we've got going on. So, I guess Karen's already done it. We've already done that moment there. So, Eric, Craig, greatly appreciate all you do. Thank you. It's been a heck of a run. I'm going to echo again what Kent said if you didn't hear it. In this 10-year term, this group up here, we spent $59.6 million of structural improvements to your cooperative. Structural improvements. I hope you're proud of it. We are incredibly proud of it. I'm incredibly proud of it. I'm incredibly proud to stand up here as your GM, and I want to thank you tonight for coming. So with that, I think we'll move in. If you want to adjourn.
All righty. We are looking for a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn? I see it. State your name for me, please. Ryan Holtz. Is there a second? Mr. Scott Ray. Scott Ray. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Meeting adjourned. We do have some door prizes. And time for food after the door prizes. I want you to exit this door over here.